Welcome to an SFB Addict video. SFB Addict, I'm going to continue with a series of vids on very basic tactics. These aren't ground-shattering, unique things. They're just very basic stuff that most SFB players already know, but new players may not have considered yet. So last one we covered what the Mizia concept was. This one we're going to cover bolting plasma torpedoes. Most plasma players prefer to launch their plasmas or to envelop their plasmas and launch them. And I'll bring up the Gorn here. So what we're looking at here is the plasma torpedo table. So at a range of 0 to 5, a launched S-type will do 30 points of damage. But if you bolt that plasma, it will only do 15 points of damage at range 0 to 5. And this Gorn heavy cruiser, or tournament command cruiser, has one left side S, or left portion, one left side F, one right portion S, and one right side plasma F. So 2 S's, 2 F's. Left portion, left side, right side. So if they launch their plasma, that will be 100 points of plasma. If that 100 points of plasma hits the strongest shield on a heavy cruiser at 30 points, it's going to be 70 points internal damage if it hits for maximum amount of damage. So you can see why plasma players prefer to launch rather than bolt, because if they bolt, it's only 50 points of damage, which would be 20 points of internal damage rather than 70. But of course, plasmas almost never hit for their full damage. And if the opponent is going high speed, they can pretty much, most of the time, reduce the damage down to the 5 or 10 point mark, whereas they've been firing their overloaded heavy weapons at you for probably twice that damage. So one of the things the plasma player should really consider is the advantage of bolting, and it is an advantage. If we take a look at a Federation cruiser, and we look at their photon torpedoes, they're limited to range 8. It will do 16 points of damage as a full maximized overload. That's per torpedo, and they have 4 of them, so that's 64 points. And at range 8, it's 1 to 3. And for a Gorn, range 6 to 10, it's rolls of 1 to 3. But here, it'd be 45 points of damage versus 64. So it's less damage for the same die roll, but they can do it at range 10. So when you're closing in on a Federation player, they're closing in on you, range 11, range 10. Let's just confirm that. At this point, the plasma player can bolt. Now, of course, with the Gorn, their bolting arc, if you look at the left portion, this arrow here, and this arrow here would be the directions in which the Gorn can bolt, both the S torpedo and the F torpedo, which means that the ones on the right hand side do not arc in this position. So when bolt happens, it's going to be with one 30 point and one 15 point, and then cut that in half. So 44 cut in half, 22. And the Gorn at that positioning will have 1, 2, 3, 4 phaser 1s that can bear. So let's look at 9 to 15. It's 1, 2, and 3 rolls for damage of 3, 2, and 1. So basically for every 1 phaser 1 they fire, they can expect 1 point of damage. So if they fire 4 phasers, they can expect 4 damage, statistically. However, if they luck out and roll 4 rolls of a 1, that's 12 damage. So 22 plus 12, 34. It's enough to puncture down the shield and force the player to drain batteries to reinforce. And they're doing this at range 10. So in the run-up to range 10, right here is the line for the extreme edge of the plasma arc for the right portion arc. So it's this line here. So at a range of something, what is that, 11 or 12? At range 12, the Gorn could launch its right side plasma and then as the ships continue to close, at this point, the Gorn could bolt its left side weapons, and then on its next movement, turn, and the plasma closes with the Federation player. So at this point, the Fed has a downed left side, that probably would have been the number 6 shield as opposed to the number 1. So as soon as the Gorn turns, it then has another phaser 1 back here that can fire at a shield that is pretty much almost down. And with a lucky shot, you could do internals. So with 5 lucky shots with the phasers and good shots with the plasmas, you can take down a shield and do a few points of internals, and you're still not inside the range 8 bracket for the Federation player to return fire with their overloaded photons. And if the speed differential is good enough, if the Fed is too slow and the Gorn is going fast enough, the Gorn can continue to slip and turn until his turn mode is completed, and the Fed could pursue, but now they've got a plasma coming after them. And the likelihood is that this is going to hit maybe the number 2 shield, or if the Fed is fast enough, maybe the rear shield, so that the number 6 and 3 are down. Now, of course, if the Fed is moving fast enough, it's going to catch the Gorn within its range 8. But if the Fed isn't fast enough, it might stay outside range 8 and have a plasma that might hit its number 1, or force it to take it on its number 2, leaving it with only 1 battle shield. Whereas the Gorn, if he's lucky enough, hasn't taken any damage, but he's just down 3 out of his 4 plasma. He can then run for the next couple turns, and he's got his S-torps back up as quick-load F-torpedoes, or for a third turn and get his S-torpedoes back up again. And of course this could be a pseudo-plasma, so that you still have 1S and 1F on board the Gorn ship. So there's lots of tactical feints that you can play here. Now of course that is an approach where you've only got half your plasmas to bear. You can do other approaches. Now, it's easier to do this with a Romulan than it is with a Gorn. But here, you've got a range 10. The Gorn could, at this point, bolt. I just accidentally moved my map. Let me scroll back up. There we go. Now let's move it down. Just one hex each. So at this point, the Gorn could bolt at range 10, and then on its next movement perform a high energy turn and run away. Or even bolt just 2 S torpedoes, launch 2 Fs, do the HET, and run away. So, at the same time the Gorn bolts, he can fire all of his phaser 1s, which in this case would be 6 center lined. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then when he HETs, he then has these 2 phaser 1s in the rear that can arc. So it's a possible tactic for the Gorn to come in, bolt, fire phasers, and HET all at range 10, well outside the Federation's overload range. And if the Gorn hits with those rolls of 1 to 3, he's done 50 points to the number 1 shield. More likely you're probably going to do 30, what is it, 45 I guess, with half of them. You might hit with 1F, 1S for 22, or 1S and 2Fs, that sort of thing. You're not going to jackpot every time you do this. Matter of fact, some players seem to find that when they try and bolt, they miss with most of them, but it is an option to try and get an unexpected hit at longer ranges, and hopefully get away without taking the full brunt of their return fire. Now I said the Romulan can do this a little bit more easily, and that's because the Plasma S on the Romulan Firehawk is forward portion. So that means both the S's and 1F would be able to arc offside, or all 4 of them center line, whereas the Gorn can only get 2 of them to arc offside. So there you go, a short little tactical ramble on the benefits of bolting. Have fun playing Starfleet battles.